Hey everyone, welcome back to the Gut Girls podcast. We're going to dive into a topic that we hear about, our clients are curious about when we tell them that their morning routine is wrecking their gut. And they're like, what do you mean exactly? And of course, sometimes we're not quite so blunt the way that we say that, but it is a lot about our overall health, like really kickstarts with what happens first thing in the morning. And so Angela, tell us a little bit about what that means. Like what are we saying that impacts every single day of every person's life that starts in the morning?
Well, if this is a hot topic, because I don't think people actually realize, Diana, that it's literally like the first 1 to 2 hours after waking that sets the tone for everything. I mean, your digestion, your blood sugar, your hormones, for that sake, right? And so I think it's interesting that it's literally even just that. We'll narrow it down from like the morning to like those 2 hours upon waking that can just seriously change your day. And it's funny because most of our clients will come to us and say, I can't sleep. So they're complaining about the back end of their day, right? And they're like, I have trouble falling asleep, staying asleep. I'm waking up with sweats, or I'm waking up every night like that 3 to 4 o'clock hour. Maybe it's 2 to 4 hour. And right away, I'm like, okay, let's back up to what you're doing in the morning. And they just are like, I don't understand, like how can that affect why I can't sleep and why I can't stay asleep or why I'm waking up at 3 in the morning. But it's like, no, it's the first few hours of the day. And what's interesting is, I'm going to kind of throw this at you, Dinah, but if you, I'm going to have you play the client for a second. Like, what do we typically hear? What is, just so people can understand, like truly what we're saying, what do we typically hear people doing when they're starting their day off?
Okay, so I'm playing a typical client. They're saying, well, I never really sleep well. And then as soon as I wake up, I'm stumbling to make my coffee. I barely get there. And I usually drink, I used to drink a lot of coffee, but now I kind of cut it back to 2 cups of coffee. And then I'm not really hungry in the morning. Sometimes, like, I'll eat just like a banana or something like that. And then I usually don't even really eat until maybe lunchtime or, 11 o'clock or something. So that's typically what we hear, right?
Yeah, it's like spot on. So they're waking up, starting their day with caffeine, and then if they're hungry, maybe having something for breakfast, but most likely skipping food until lunchtime. So let's just take this second to kind of explain from now the Gut Girls lens of what is happening in that body. Okay, so you guys, naturally you have melatonin, which is a normal natural hormone that your body makes, and it helps put you to sleep. But the opposite side of that is cortisol. So these are both natural hormones that your body makes, and they help set this like sleep wake cycle, right? Like this, literally, like the same way the sun sets in the morning and the moon sets in the evening, we have hormones to help us do the same thing. And so if I'm waking up to, let's say, a busy day, which everyone does, right? In today's world, we all wake up to alarm clocks, and it's like, I've got, if we're lucky, 30 minutes. I'm thinking of like parents, because it's like to get the kids fed and dressed and out the door to the bus, or like maybe some of you have 45 minutes, but it's like this 30-minute window, where it's like, let's get all this stuff done. So you're waking up with this like agenda, right? Like no one just these days like just stretches. Like I think of, like, is it Snow White or Cinderella, like stretches themselves with the birds that are like fluffing her hair. Like that's a dream come true. But we're waking up under an alarm clock and this agenda, right? And so what you're doing is that alarm clock, and I know, guys, listen, you can't not wake up to an alarm clock. Like I'm hearing you, and I get it. We wake up to an alarm clock, so I get it. But I'm trying to walk you through that alarm clock. Literally sets the cortisol off right there. So cortisol is your stress hormone, but it's a good stressor, meaning like stress is what's going to wake you up to get you out of bed, right? Like if you didn't have that hormone, you'd still be sleeping in. So it's a good level of stress. It's going to kind of wake you up, get you out of bed, and it should gradually rise. Like it's a soft, gradual climax that you should see. Okay. But if you're waking up to alarm clock and then just chugging the coffee next, that nice gradual, I think of like a nice little mountain, like like shift, like climb up a gradual mountain, it goes from that to like this steep up and down mountain. Like you couldn't get up it unless you had a rope to climb up it. It is so steep. So your cortisol spikes that steep when you're waking up to the alarm clock, chugging the coffee, because coffee is a stimulus, right? And it integrates into that cortisol cycle where it's helping it rise faster. So you've got this steep shift of cortisol. And then, like Dana said, if I'm lucky, I might grab food, but most likely I am fasting until lunch. And so that fasting is yet another stressor on the physical body, like the physiological body, your metabolism. It's a stressor. So you are just piling on the steepness of that rise in cortisol. And that's most people's morning. And so then you can imagine that if I have the steepest cliff on the other side of that, doesn't it have to be a steep fall? Like it has to be, you know what I mean? So you're getting this really quick rise in the morning. And that's where everyone at 2 o'clock is like, I'm dying. I need another cup of coffee. I can't keep going. So that's the cortisol shift that's happening underneath this. Is the steep rise is followed by the steep fall. And it's not supposed to look like that. If you look at an actual cortisol graph, it's supposed to gradually rise and by midday just peak. And then there's this gradual soft coming down so that by the evening time, your body is winding down. And we just don't get that with these common morning routines that everyone has. And so that's probably the biggest issue there. And then okay, let's just go back, Diana, to like playing almost like devil's advocate with the gut and hormones, because then what happens when that person eats or breaks their fast for lunch? What's the biggest complaint that we get?
If they eat, sorry, say it again.
If they do eat lunch, what is that lunch like? What's their biggest complaint?
Well, a lot of times, I mean, like you said, they'll crash. I mean, most everybody, and we talked about this on a podcast last week when we had Adriana in there. Most people are eating too quickly, or multitasking when they're eating, and they're significantly under eating protein. So a lot of times they're breaking that fast finally at lunchtime and not eating enough protein, not eating enough really in general to be able to meet their nutritional needs. And then 2 hours later, they're crashing again because they're exhausted. They have no energy, or maybe they went out to eat and ate, a fast food meal or something. They weren't able to digest it well, and then they crash. So that's generally what we hear the most about when people do that, like at midday.
Mm-hmm. So that's spot on. I mean, that was essentially the answer I was looking for. Is they crash, and they crash with the brain fog, right? They crash with the bloat. They're like, my stomach swells up. I have so much brain fog. I can't even go about the rest of the day. They end up usually grabbing more coffee at that point, because what else do you do? But that's why. So if your mornings start in stress, guys, your gut spends the rest of the day trying to catch up. And so that's what Diana's saying is, if you're, skipping the protein or eating behind a computer and all the things, your gut is literally spending the rest of the day trying to catch up, in the sense of, even by the end of the day, people will say, my stomach looks like I'm 9 months pregnant. And they don't know why. Like, why is my digestive system not doing the thing, right? This answers the why. Even when we do the GI map on so many people, it's like, but why? But why is my digestive system not working? And it's like, chronically for years, this is what you've been doing. So your gut tries to catch up all day long, and it just can't do that. I mean, it physically can't do that now. And that's a lot of times when people will say, now, if I wake up the next morning, the bloat is gone. Like, I start all over again fresh, and they don't understand why. And so I think it's so good for them to hear both sides, what we hear from the client all the time, but then the physiological, events that are happening in the body. Because as the gut tries to catch up, you have to understand the liver's burdened at that point, right? The liver is deeply burdened. It can't keep up. So that's why Diana and I talk so much about the liver. It's like, gosh, one of the first things to get you guys to, maybe feeling just a little like coming up for a breath of fresh air is support the liver, because it's so burdened by the day, by the stress. Guys, the number one organ for detoxification in the body is the liver. So that's detoxifying all the stress of the day, but also like all the bacteria that you fed throughout the day with caffeine and sugar, or that you have fed through stress by fasting, they're leaving off like all of these toxins, right? They're leaving off all these toxins in the body. We call them endotoxins. And your liver is what has to make up for all of that. And then I think that's where women come to us, right, Diana, where they're like, and by the way, I'm hormonally a mess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to add fuel to this fire of a morning that really doesn't start out right, a lot of the women that come to us, they're really trying so hard to do so many things right. So they're like, I'm watching my calories. I'm trying not to eat too much because, everybody wants to be a certain weight or whatever the case may be. And then they're also working out a lot of times fasted in the morning. So they're waking up to that alarm clock. They're doing these really hardcore fasted workouts, and then really not taking the time to eat at lunch. And so it really still kind of always goes back to like what sort of how their day is sort of starting. And, we're not saying that fasted workouts aren't good for some people, but for most people under this massive stress load, just can't handle those fasted workouts, at least for maybe a time period until you can really get all of those things regulated, just like you were talking about. I mean, of course, obviously the cortisol, but the blood sugar, if you're only eating a banana, like it's causing a dysregulation in that natural blood sugar cycle and what that should look like. And so it's really a matter of kind of pulling all that together. And so with us kind of focus on this being in the mornings, that is one of those things that could be kind of wrecking your gut. If you're one of those people that's like, I'm going to get out and I'm going to grind in the morning and do this really hard workout, that may be one of the things that's really kind of adding fuel to the fire right now.
Yeah. And then you hear, the saying of, well, I'm just not hungry in the morning. You kind of nailed it in the beginning of the podcast. And there's so much to say about that one sentence. Of my first response would be, guys, I want you to understand that if you are trying to lose weight and you're the person that's like, I'm just not hungry in the morning, or you might even be the person that's like, I'm just not hungry often at all. The number one thing I hear when someone says that to us is your metabolism is not working. So like, if you want to know why you're not losing the weight, it's because you're not feeding the like the furnace, like, you know what I mean? Like the furnace, the hot, the heat in the body that is honestly the one that burns the calories. You've got to feed it in order for it to burn the calories, right? So if you're not hungry, that is the first sign of not a good metabolism. It's the sign of a metabolism that hasn't been fed in a long time. And so again, I wouldn't say, now the applicable side of that is, I'm not saying get up and like just start pounding a large breakfast. You kind of have to wake it up again in this slow, steady progression, because if the metabolism isn't firing, then what we see on the GI map is digestion's not firing, right? So if you try to then pound a large amount of food or calories or high protein into a metabolism that's not working, you are going to feel even more bloated, and probably constipated, to be honest. And we hear that a lot too, right, Diana? Like you kind of just spoke of the person that's like, I'm trying to do all the things, right, that I hear on Dr. Google or whatever you're listening to. And it's like, yeah, but do you know where you started? Right? Like, do you know where your metabolism is beginning? And so I'm actually kind of curious, Diana, for you, because I know your mornings are like solid, like you know what your mornings are going to look like. How do you wake up to feed your metabolism? What does that look like for you?
Well, for sure, it's always bone broth. And I say that actually, I try to drink probably about 4 to 5 ounces of water, just like lukewarm water. That just kind of wakes me up a little bit. I usually take the dog outside so that we step outside for just a minute. I'll either take my water out or I'll do bone broth. I love Kettle and Fire bone broth. We don't make any commission or anything off of Kettle and Fire, but I just want to mention because it's just such a clean, it's a clean product with that with grass-fed meats and whatever. So I love doing that, either the chicken or the beef. I usually rotate through them a little bit, and I'll do about 8 ounces of bone broth, just warm it up, and then a lot of times I'll take that outside. with the dog to kind of get a little bit of just like morning fresh air, sunshine, that kind of thing, just to wake me up a little bit. And then, yeah, things kind of get a little bit crazy then. But even, okay, let's say even if I did not do anything else, at least I started my day with what, 10 grams. It's roughly 10 grams of protein. I didn't start it off with coffee. I started it off softly. Now, a lot of times my goal is to have a couple of eggs. I usually feel my best when I have eggs in the morning. But my husband laughed yesterday. We were just in a really busy season of life. And so we're just doing a lot of food prepping right now where I'm like, hey, can you make me a bunch of burgers, a bunch of chicken, bunch of, and so whole food prep. So I was telling him about my day and I was like, I had burger and zucchini for breakfast. He was like, what? And I was like, it was easy, it was fast, I was in a hurry, that's what I ate. And so that's kind of what my mornings look like. And I do want to speak to what you just said. I hope you guys listened. I hope the listeners are listened to last week's podcast with Adriana, because she really kind of dove pretty deep into like what her day used to look like and what it looks like now. She talked about food prepping. She even talked about her macros and all of that stuff, which she's a practitioner herself, which I love that so much, because obviously most of you listening are not going to be a practitioner or a chiropractor or something like that. But maybe you are, maybe you're not, I don't know. But a lot of our clients don't have sort of that background and that education that she has as being a chiropractor, and because she works with her patients on nutrition. But even so, doing that, she really came to Angela because she was like, I know I'm not spot on. I want to do my GI map test and let's get my nutrition right. And so with Angela's help and somebody else's help, she's kind of pulled together this new sort of plan for her where she's attempting to eat 145 grams of protein in a day. And for you all listening, if you've ever actually looked back at, and tracked what you were eating, my guess is unless you're being super intentional, you're not getting anywhere near 145 grams of protein in a day, let alone, of course, looking at your carbohydrates and your fat and whatever. But for our listeners that are just starting out, if you were going to try to do anything, it would be to hit, maybe even just try to hit 100 grams of protein. And if you do that, you're going to be like, whoa, this is a lot of food. So you might have to kind of gradually do it. If if you find out that you're in the 30s and 40s and 50 grams of protein total in a day, then I would suggest you kind of gradually do that, increase that. And if you'll start your morning with some protein, like whether it's bone broth protein or eggs, or my goodness, eat a burger patty and some or a turkey burger and some zucchini for your breakfast, but at least start your day with protein. And that's going to really help, like Angela was talking about, with the cortisol, the blood sugar regulation.
Yeah. And for you guys out there that love your coffee, because I do love a very high quality, good cup of coffee in the morning. Honestly, the best thing is to push it back about 90 minutes after waking up. And something like a routine that I've got into now, I have 2 little girls, but I'm teaching them how their body works in the morning. So it also keeps me accountable. So when we come down the stairs, because we come down the stairs together, or they're not long down, like coming down the stairs after I wake up, it's always like, hey guys, we're meeting in the kitchen. We're pouring ourselves a cup of water and we are drinking our water. And it's great that they're doing it with me now, because it's like, again, the accountability. And so I encourage you, like, do that with your family, like talk out loud about, no, this is how our morning should look. We come down, and I even teach them, I'm like, okay, guys, you have literally, like, you're breaking your fast, right? So overnight you have been fasted. Breakfast is about breaking the fast, but it has to be done well, right? So like starting all that stagnation that's been sitting overnight because you haven't been moving, right? So your circulation is stagnant, all inflammation gets stagnant. So a lot of times, quite honestly, people wake up and they're like, I wake up feeling stiff. More so, I know as we age, but you're waking up feeling stiff, and it's because all the inflammation throughout the day starts to settle in the nighttime. And so when you wake up, like, think of it literally that way, rinse it out. Start with water. We've had clients change their showers to the morning because like some of it is just you have a desire to reach for the coffee pot. Like that's the culture that we like, the world we live in. And so I've had clients say like, I get up, I get a drink of water, I go right, for me, it's upstairs. So like, I don't know where your showers are, but it's like, I go right back upstairs, try to get in the shower to buy myself some time to wake up and get warm and get loose, like a nice warm shower to wake you up in the morning. Sometimes if we have enough time in the morning, I'll try to get the girls outside too, like on a summer day, you know what I mean? More like a fall or spring morning. It's like, I'll try to get them outside just to like feel the sun on their skin. If we can, the dog always needs to go to the bathroom in the morning if y'all have pets. So it's like, there's so many ways to push that coffee back. So it's like, hey, let's take the dog out together. Like, like whatever it is, you can create that family routine, kind of like Diana's doing, and it helps you keep yourself and your family accountable. And I think it does take intention, because yes, we all crave that cup of coffee in the morning, but you'll find by pushing it back by 90 minutes, what this does too is, I'm speaking to the people that have a lot of indigestion and heartburn. Guys, if you're starting your morning with, like, think of it, if there's stagnation, let's say your digestion is already a little faulty to begin with, and you're just pounding the coffee in the morning, you're not helping digestion by doing that. So if you're waking up and you're someone that's like, we've heard people say like, I can't even drink water in the morning because I have so much indigestion, or it causes acid reflux. Right away, I would say, okay, so you've got to get some movement in. Like Diana says, like, get outside, go wake up, go for a walk, get some movement in, because clearly digestion is just sitting there all night, and you don't have, probably, again, I haven't looked at your stool test, but if that's you, you probably aren't making natural stomach acid to begin with. And so by pounding the coffee, it doesn't increase your stomach acid. In fact, as you pound the coffee, your cortisol goes up and stomach acid goes down. Like, they just kind of play off of each other. And so rather than that, push the coffee back, go for a walk. Oh my gosh, we have a client that is dedicated to doing jumping jacks every day, right, Diana? And she even says, when I do those jumping jacks every day, or jump rope, it might be jump rope, but she's jumping somehow, she feels so much better, like her digestion, her anxiety. And so be creative with it. It doesn't have to look perfect. And I want to remind you, like, that's the thing. Your body doesn't need a perfect morning. It just needs a predictable one. And that means consistency. So the key is, once you find that morning routine, Dan and I say all the time, it's got to become that morning routine. It's got to be consistent. It's got to be predictable. Your body loves rhythm, just like we love rhythms, right? In our life, the body loves a rhythm of waking up and going to sleep. And so creating that is huge,
I love that. And, we talk a lot about just like simplifying a little bit. And I know sometimes people are like, but you're asking me to do this and this and this and this. So of course, like I was talking about, we talked to Adriana, and she's really like counting her macros and doing all that stuff. Guys, we just want you to start really slow. Like, and that's why we're doing this podcast, just to start with the morning. Let's change that. And that's it. We're not asking you to, throw everything out in your pantry. I mean, that's not where we want you to start. We want you to just start really slowly. Like Angela said, just drink some water in the morning, or drink some bone broth, something like that. Push your coffee back. See if you can push that back. Man, you'll be so amazed that you won't become so reliant on that feeling. I have so many people that I've worked with over the years, and I know Angela would too, that they're like, I don't even miss my coffee anymore. Now it's like a treat. I do it every now and then. It's something a little bit more special. It doesn't have to be part of my everyday routine. So I would highly suggest that be something that you look at. It's easy for me to say, because you guys know that I don't drink coffee, and I never have. It's not been something that I've ever been reliant on. But I do know, just like Angela was talking about, what that actually does to us first thing in the morning. So if you can push that back a little bit, that's what I would suggest, that you literally just start so slow doing that. And then, like Angela said, starting your day with a little bit of protein. Doesn't have to be this huge meal or anything, but getting that started is a great way to get started. Angela, so anything else before we kind of tell them how, if they just want to start really slow with us, what they can do?
No, that's a great segue into, I'm thinking you're going to go into tier 1, because if you guys are trying to change one thing at a time, which is what we recommend, let's start with the morning routine. And Diana, tell them, how can they learn more about that?
Yes, because so many people know us as the gut girls, so they're like, "Oh, I need to do this GI map test, and I need to do this." Guys, if you're in this cortisol dysregulation, as we're talking about, we want you to start at the foundation. We want you to start at the beginning because that's when you're going to be successful. So if it's still, you're going to sleep drinking alcohol at night and then you're waking up and having coffee first thing in the morning, then we just need to like kind of pump the brakes a little bit and start with what we call our tier 1 membership. It's something that I'm so excited about that we have this to offer because it's only $15, guys. It's as cheap, it's probably cheaper than your gym membership. If you have a gym membership, it's cheaper than Netflix, and we did that on purpose because, and I pushed Angela for this a little bit because I was like, some people just need this one or two things. And so we're giving you a lot more than one or two things in this tier 1 membership. We're giving you the nutrition guide, our swap guide, and what we call our quick relief guide that even has like some of our core 4 supplements where we would start in, like Angela was talking about, so a lot of times people are having lots of inflammation. So how can we kind of drive down the inflammation a little bit and get us a good starting point, really hone in on the foundations, these lifestyle keys, but you also get to be a part of our community through our Group Me app. It's so fun. I actually love it so much. I love it more and more every day as people chime in and, talk about what products they love or what they found or what electrolytes or, whatever the case may be. I love that we have that as part of our community. So you get to be a part of that community as well. And we also, over the years of working with thousands of different clients, we have created our resource library, which is so cool because it really has what we do with our family. If we have to take an antibiotic or something, what do we do post antibiotic, or what do we do if we have a cough or a cold or something like that? So I love that we have all of those resources. It's literally for $15. You also get your supplements, any supplements that you order. So if you're already ordering supplements, you get those at a discount just by being in the membership. So it pays for itself so quickly. We did that on purpose for you to have an entry level, get those foundations. And then if you decide that you want to go a little bit deeper after you've kind of changed your morning routine a little bit and change some of these simple things, then you can kind of move forward at that time. So, and with the GI map and stuff at that point. So we're going to close it down here for today. I just wanted to let you know that you can go to gutgirls.health. You actually don't have to have a discovery call to start with that tier 1 membership. You can go directly on our website. You pay $15 and then you have access to our portal, and you could just dive right in and start, join our Group Me app and look at those resources in the library. And we're excited to have you part of that membership, a part of that community. You go to our website, gutgirls.health. And we hope you join us on our next episode next week. Hope you have a great week in the meantime. The Gut Girls podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. We are not acting as licensed medical professionals. Always consult your doctor before making any changes to your health routine.